Hello, everybody. My name is Barry Johns, and I want to welcome you back to another edition of Studio Talk, where we're going to talk about, does Avid finally realize that HDX is done? Let's get to it. Okay. So why am I even bringing up this subject, and why does it matter? Good question. All right. So let's talk about some of the things Avid's done recently, and then where I think they're going ultimately. Avid came out with the HDX, or I'm sorry, Avid came out with a hybrid engine option last year. Okay. And I think it got fully implemented on the M1 this year, but don't hold me to that. But anyway, they came out with that last year. And what the hybrid engine does, if you're an HDX user, meaning that everything you do in your DAW, the actual DAW, your auxes, your buses, your headphone routing, all the plugins, processing, all of that, 100% of that is done on the HDX card, and none of it is done on your computer. Well, there was a time and a place we definitely needed that because computers' horsepower were not up to speed. So Avid, realizing that computing power is getting some serious mojo here lately, okay, some serious mojo, really threatening this whole need of DSP in general. And I think if you watch my channel, you know my feelings on DSP today. If you have a modern super fast computer, you just don't need it anymore. That's my opinion. And I've been a DSP user most of my recording journey. Okay. I've been on Pro Tools TDM. I've been on HDX. I've been on HD Native. I'm currently a Avid Carbon user with Pro Tools Ultimate. And of course, I'll get to the Carbon in a second, but that also includes HDX processing for zero latency recording. So, I'm not speaking about what I think. I'm telling you, basically, in my experience, what I've experienced. I'm not going to go as far as to say what I know. I'm going to tell you because I don't know everything. I haven't experienced every possible scenario. So I'm going to talk about the your average user out there. And so the hybrid engine enabled you to be able to stop running everything on the HDX card and basically only use your HDX card when you need DSP processing. Other than that, everything else runs off your computer, basically limiting how much DSP you need. Before, you may have needed an HDX2 or HDX3, meaning a 2-card system or a 3-card system. Okay. And each one of those cards are around $4,000 or something new, even more than that. So obviously it's a very expensive thing to go down, road to go down. Okay. And so to be able to, so you no longer need any of that. You can't possibly need more than one HDX card unless you have a need for a tremendous amount of IO at the same time. That would be the only reason you'd need an additional HDX card today. So today, pretty much, your computer's doing the boatload of the work, and you can still process whatever you want to. If you want to start tracking or overdubbing, you just incorporate the hybrid engine, which basically puts DSP workflow into play. And so everything in that track you're recording in its signal flow gets converted to a DSP HDX type track, and all that processing gets done on the HDX card. Okay. Next comes in the release of the Avid Carbon, which I own. There's one, you can't see it, but it's right over here. And what did I knock over? Oh, you know what I knocked over? I knocked over the holder for my soldering iron. I was replacing a fader in the D command the other day, and I forgot to put this away. So I just went off and knocked it over. Sorry there, soldering iron holder. But I had to investigate, okay, because I was curious. That was a pretty unique sound. Okay, anyway, let's get back to topic. So comes in a Carbon. I'm not going to put too far back over there because I want to knock that stupid thing down again. Okay, but I've got one over there. And, I bought it when it first came out. I actually own 3 copies of Pro Tools Ultimate. Don't even get me going on it. One came free with it, and I had 2 before. Okay. But anyway, so the Carbon comes out, and basically it's glorified HDX. Okay. It has your traditional interface, and it does have outstanding. I will give it to Avid on this. The conversion in the Carbon is some of the best I've ever heard in that price range. conversion in the Carbon is the best I've ever heard in that price range for its feature set. Okay. There's better converters out there, not in that price range. Okay. Now that's just my 2 cents. So this is not all bashing Avid or Carbon or HDX. It's one hell of an interface. Okay. It's actually really, really, really good. Okay. Um, but outside of that, it's got HDX built into it. So yeah, I can track anytime I want. Never ever worry about latency ever again. I don't have to use a separate GUI in front of it. In other words, a separate mixer that I'm controlling my recording tracks that's in front of my DAW. I hate working like that. Okay. It's a distraction to me. I don't need those workarounds. I just want to work and get it done. So that's what's exciting about it, And so, but having bought the recent M1, starting with a MacBook Air that blew away my 12-core Mac Pro, yes, an entry-level $1,200 computer blew away. Mine was a cheese grater, okay? The equivalent of a $6,000 or $7,000 computer when it came out, okay? So that tells you we've come a long way. I got a lot of mileage out of that Mac Pro, and I love it, but I've moved on, okay? And then when the Apple released the M1 MacBook Pro, I went in and I bought that. So I have an M1 Pro MacBook Pro, and that thing is a freaking beast. And I never, ever, ever, ever incorporate DSP into my workflow anymore. I just don't. Don't need it. No reason to do it. Don't need it. Okay. And so kind of keep that in mind. There's just no need for it. These computers are so powerful. And then you look at what they just came out with, the Mac Studio and the Ultra, of which I have one on the way. It'll be here like 3 weeks. I sat on the fence too long, and I'll decide whether I decide I want to keep that, maybe sell the MacBook Pro, or I return the Ultimate. Okay. I don't see me doing that, but hey, there's always a possibility. So if you're an HDX user and if you're a Carbon user, where should you really put that money? Okay. If you've got to incorporate or add some additional stuff to your system, would it make more sense to buy a powerful computer than it would another HDX card? Would it make more sense to buy a less expensive interface and not worry about DSP processing? Avid already understands this. Avid knows. I've got a lot of problems with Avid. I hate the subscription model. If you watch my channel, I absolutely love Pro Tools, but I hate Avid as a company. I think they're just money grabbing people who are just trying to milk people like you and me to every last cent out of our pockets based upon their glory days of the past. Okay. I have a lot of viewers on this channel and I watch a lot of other channels, and there is a tremendous amount of bias out there against Avid and against Pro Tools. Against Avid, I understand. Against Pro Tools, I understand some of it, but I happen to love it. But then again, I've been on it for decades at this point, so I'm just comfortable at it, and that's probably what it is more than anything else. I have played around with Studio One lately, and I happen to really, really, really like that. And there's a good chance I pretty much made the decision I'm going to sell my D Command back there. It's just a matter of time when I do that. I know I'm going to do that and do into something else, but I've got to have all that mapped out. I don't want to do any knee-jerk reactions. But if you're considering today, if you're considering buying a Carbon, or if you're considering going HDX, I'm going to encourage you not to do it. I think you're wasting your money if you're doing it for DSP processing. If that's why, obviously, if you're going HDX, that's why you're doing it probably. Okay, but Carbon, okay, whatever. But if you're doing it for that, I think you're wasting your money. I think you're completely wasting your money. If you're already invested, then keep using it. If you're already on HDX and you already own a Carbon, continue to use it. And for years to come, it will bring you lots of joy and lots of life. But I'm talking about if you're going to invest more money than you already have invested, definitely without a doubt, now's the time to think about that and really do your homework. Maybe watch a few of my channels and give you a few of my videos and give you a dose of reality. Not that I'm right about everything. I just got a lot of experience and I have opinions on this and I share them. Does it mean I'm right about everything? No, of course not. No. But I've been around the block. I'm kind of an old fart over here. Been doing this for a long time. Freaking obsessed with it. Okay. So I've had a relationship with Avid/DigiDesign products for decades, going back into the late 90s. Okay. That's how long I've been on my journey with Avid Pro Tools and TDM, HDX, and HD Native, as well as the Carbon. Obviously, I've invested a lot of money and time into their products over the years. But I'm going to tell you that time has come to an end. There's no doubt about it. I can't imagine any reason in the world why today someone would invest in HDX. Let me say your average need out there, your average user out. I can't even imagine why you'd do it. You don't need to do it. You're telling yourself you need to. You don't. Maybe on your existing computer, you need it. Okay. So maybe when it's time and you look at the next computer, okay, maybe you really need to think a lot about the computer you're buying and get the best one that's going to enable you to maybe eliminate your need for DSP. Why would you want to be tethered to something that gives you limitations ultimately at the end of the day? Back in the day, it gave you lots of options that you didn't have otherwise. Today, not so much. I've been working without DSP for a long time. HD native, I've worked flawlessly with that. I never had any latency issues on my 12-core Mac Pro with HD native. Never, ever, 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 ever. And the only thing that HD native did for you was to now allow those ones and zeros to get in and out of that computer super fast. Well, you've got a lot of interfaces today that are super freaking fast. It can do it just as good, if not better than HD native. Heck, the new PreSonus 4848 is insanely fast. It's insanely economical, okay? We've got time to see if it stands the test of time, but it's compelling for its price. Now, I'm likely to probably go with more high-end type things, but still, even that on its own is very simple. You can get, 32 analog inputs in and out, okay, and a computer, and bam, connect all your outboard hardware to that, and you're good to go, brothers and sisters. And then you've got an additional 16 channels of an ADAT I think you can put on top of it, or certainly 8 at the very least, okay? I think it's 16. So the days for HDX are done. They're not coming to an end. They are freaking done for the majority of users, okay? Now, again, you may need it now because you've got a computer that can't handle everything we're talking about. But when I can buy an M1 Air for $1,100 and run sessions where I've got 80-something tracks, hundreds of plugins, okay, and still keep it at a manageable buffer where I can go in and lay an overdub anytime without making any concessions, what does that tell you? It tells me there ain't no need for this stuff anymore. But you got to partner yourself with the right computer. Now, I spend a lot of time talking about Apple. I'm a Mac guy. I'm not saying Mac is better. It's what I'm comfortable using. The one thing I love right now is there's a massive battle right now between Intel and Apple, and I love it. I love it. AMD makes stunning CPUs, okay? Great, fantastic for gaming, okay? You can have a few issues here or there in the DAW world, but there's ways to fix that, okay? But at the end of the day, like Alder Lake and the M1 Pro, the M1 Max, the M1 Ultra, all this stuff is just, the writing is so clear right now, it could not be more crystal clear. So if you're on HDX, or if you're a Carbon user, continue to use it. I'm going to continue to use mine as long as I've got that D command back there. The second I've got that D command, I sell it, I will sell my Carbon, and I will move away from the Pro Tools ecosystem. A lot of that has to do with my frustration, absolute anger over Avid's outrageous subscription model that is an extortion, okay? So there's that, okay? So I'm sorry, I got something in my eye, I got an eyelash in my eye, excuse me. So anyway, those are transitions I'll be making, you know. Avid has a lot of great people working for it, and Avid has done some really good things here lately from a product standpoint. Again, I don't really have issues with Avid products. I never really have for the most part, okay? But I do have issues with the philosophy of the leadership of the company. And so I do have issues with that. And so, no, I'm not out here just trying to attack Avid. I'm giving you a hard dose of reality. I'm sharing you my experiences with them and why I feel the way I feel. Okay. So had I fully embraced and experienced, certainly the M1 architecture, I would not have bought the Carbon when I did. Okay. But I was still, at the time I was looking at the Carbon, I had no intentions of using the MacBook Air. It was more of a test for video editing more than anything else. I just happened to test it a lot on audio, but I continue to use my Mac Pro for my day in and day out work. Okay. But, and if I was still on that cheese grater or still on, you can't use the Carbon with the cheese grater because it won't run Big Sur or Monterey. to my knowledge. I think there's some workarounds for that now, but I'm not doing those workarounds anymore. I got all the mileage out of that I was going to get. So I was going to buy a new Mac one way or the other. That was the situation I was in. But I didn't know that for sure when I bought the Carbon. I thought maybe I'll go back after this and go back to HD native. But then I quickly realized that there was no point to that anymore. There was just no need for that anymore. Okay. So consider these things. Do me a favor. I'm sure some of you have got some strong comments you'd like to leave about this. I'd appreciate if you put them below. All I ask is just be respectful. It's okay to have a strong, direct debate. I do that quite frankly sometimes. It's never personal, okay? But the attack stuff, that's just childish nonsense. So don't do it, okay? Just put your honest opinions down and let's have a discussion and talk about it, okay? So after you finish doing that, or before you do that, do me one favor. Do me a favor and hit that like button, that subscribe button, and then that notification bell so you know when I got a new video. And I have a lot of videos on my channel. Been out this, about 8.5 months so far. My channel's grown relatively quickly. It's doing pretty good, so I'm very happy with it so far. I'm happy I'm getting to know a lot of you people through the www World Wide Web. I got viewers all over the world, apparently, and I think that's pretty darn cool, okay? So from me to you, I enjoy these conversations. I enjoy these talks. Hopefully you do too. If you do, like, subscribe, notify, like I said before. But until next time, I hope every one of you have a great and wonderful day. Goodbye.